afternoon, and God bless you, my most amazing artists. How are you? Ready to create? I make messes, I make mistakes, but deep inside, I've got what it takes. I am an artist. All right, boys and girls, today in art class, we are going to learn how to draw a fish. And the inspiration for our fish comes from the book Mr. Seahorse by Eric Carle. Now, Mr. Seahorse is, of course, the star of the show, but the book is brimming with supporting actors like Mr. Bullhead, Mr. Stickleback, and Mr. Tilapia, to name a few. I want you to look at all the fish featured in Mr. Seahorse today. Look at the different head, body, tail, and fin shapes you see. That way, when we're all done and we're ready to draw our fish, you can create your own fish to look like one from the book, or maybe you have some photographs of fish at home that you could look at and see all the different shapes that make them. And you can make a fish like a photograph you have. So let's start with the story. Mr. Seahorse by Eric Carle. Mr. and Mrs. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea. Mrs. Seahorse began to wiggle and twist this way and that. It's time for me to lay my eggs, she said. Can I help? Asked Mr. Seahorse. Oh, yes, thank you, said Mrs. Seahorse. And she laid her eggs into a pouch on Mr. Seahorse's belly. I'll take good care of our eggs, said Mr. Seahorse. I promise. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by a group of trumpet fish hidden in a patch of reeds. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. How are you, Mr. Stickleback? Asked Mr. Seahorse. Delighted, replied Mr. Stickleback. I just built a nest, and right away, Mrs. Stickleback laid her eggs into it. Now I am taking good care of them until they hatch. Keep up the good work, said Mr. Seahorse, and swam on his way. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by a lionfish hidden behind a coral reef. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. How are you, Mr. Tilapia? Asked Mr. Seahorse. Mr. Tilapia couldn't answer. His mouth was full of eggs. I know, said Mr. Seahorse. Mrs. Tilapia laid her eggs. Now you are taking good care of them until they hatch. Mr. Tilapia nodded his head. You must be very happy, said Mr. Seahorse, and swam on his way. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by a pair of leaf fish hidden among the seaweed. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. How are you, Mr. Curtis? Asked Mr. Seahorse. Perfectly fine, replied Mr. Curtis. Mrs. Curtis laid her eggs, and I have stuck them on my head. Now I am taking good care of them until they hatch. You are doing a good job, said Mr. Seahorse, and swam on his way. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by a stonefish hidden behind a rock. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Pipe?" asked Mr. Seahorse. "Couldn't be better," replied Mr. Pipe. "Mrs. Pipe laid her eggs along my belly. Now I am taking good care of them until they hatch." "You should feel proud of yourself," said Mr. Seahorse, and swam on his way. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Bullhead?" asked Mr. Seahorse. "Tip-top," replied Mr. Bullhead. "Mrs. Bullhead laid her eggs, and the eggs hatched. Now I'm babysitting." "You are doing a fine job," said Mr. Seahorse, and swam on his way. The time had come for the seahorse babies to be born. Mr. Seahorse wiggled and twisted this way and that. At last, the babies tumbled from Mr. Seahorse's pouch and swam away. One baby turned around and tried to come back into the pouch. "Oh no," said Mr. Seahorse. "I do love you, but now you are ready to be on your own." The end. All right, boys and girls. I hope you enjoyed Mr. Seahorse by Eric Carle. And now it's time for us to get ready to draw our own fish. I hope you looked at all the different pictures of fish so that you could see what kind of fish you'd like to make today. Now today I'm going to draw a fish and color using some oil pastels and watercolor paint. But maybe all you have at home are crayons or markers. Well, I have two finished pictures here. This one I made in just crayons, and the one down here below I made just using markers. So if you only have crayons or markers, it's okay. Just follow along with the fish drawing today and then add your color using your crayons if all you have are crayons, or markers if all you have are markers. It's all right. We're going to do the same steps together. All right, boys and girls. Since I'm going to be using watercolor and oil pastels, I'm going to be using a watercolor resist technique. So I can color with oil pastels and know that where I don't color, the paint will stick. Now, if you don't have oil pastels, you can use crayons and paint. That will work also. That will create a watercolor resist. Unfortunately, if all you have are markers and paint, it won't work with your markers. Paint and markers are not best friends. All right, so let's get started. You're gonna need to turn your sketchbook so that your sketchbook is in the wide position. So here's my sketchbook. That's the cover of my sketchbook. All right, I'm gonna go to my next page in my sketchbook. Okay, and I'm gonna turn my book so it's in the wide position. So I'm gonna go to my next page. So I'm gonna go behind my marker example. And then I'm gonna put a piece of paper behind. I'm gonna take this construction paper here, and I'm gonna put this behind my page in my sketchbook so that I don't accidentally mark on my table or ruin the next page in my book. So use whatever scrap paper you have at home and separate your page from the next. All right, now I'm gonna go ahead and choose, I'm gonna do oil pastel, and I'm gonna pick my red oil pastel. All right, now I'm gonna start in the top left corner of my picture, of my paper. So I'm gonna be using all of my paper space, okay, so that I make a nice big fish that fills up my paper. I'm going to be using line to draw all of the lines that make up my fish shape. So my head and my body, my fin, my tail, I'm going to use lines. Those lines are going to create shape. So I'm going to be using shape in my picture. My lines are also going to repeat to create some patterns. So I'm going to give some details to my fish tail and my fins and my fish body using pattern. And then I'm going to add color with oil pastel and watercolor paint. Now I'm still going to be showing contrast. Okay, I want my fish to stand out from the background. Okay. And so to do that, I'm going to be using color. And since I know my fish is going to be swimming in water, I don't want to use blues. So I'm not going to use blue because I know that I'm going to paint my water in my background blue to show water. All right, so none of my fish, I'm not going to use any blue for my fish today. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to take my oil pastel, I'm going to go to the top left of my paper, and I'm going to make my eye. Now use any color crayon that you want for this, okay? I'm going to stay away from blue, so pick a color that you like. I picked red, but you can use any color you want. Remember, you are the artist. And I'm going to start by drawing a circle, all right, to make the eye of my fish. All right, so everyone draw their circle for their eye. Okay, now I'm gonna go in front of my eye, okay, almost to the edge of my paper. I'm about a finger space away. So almost to the edge, I'm gonna go in front of my eye, and I'm gonna draw a rainbow, a curved line. I'm gonna go up, 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 and around my eye, and I'm gonna leave about 4 finger spaces for my tail. Need to leave room for my tail. So leave a finger space here. So here's my dot. All right, and I'm gonna go up, 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 around, and down. I'm gonna touch my finger there. Okay, everybody have that curved line drawn? Excellent. All right, now I'm going to go back to where I began, but I'm gonna leave a space. This is gonna be the space for my mouth. So now I'm going to draw a smiley face line. Okay, so I'm gonna draw from here, smiley face line, till I get almost to where I touch, but I don't touch. All right, so I went right to my hand. So now I have my smiley face line. Now I'm going to take this open part and I'm gonna make the mouth. So I'm gonna start here at the top, and I'm gonna make a sideways letter V. So 2 diagonal lines that connect, making a V. Now some of you might wanna stop here and think, oh, that looks like a great mouth. That looks good. But if you wanna be a little fancy, you can make some mouth lips. I'm gonna go to my center of my V, and I'm gonna draw a straight line out, and then I'm gonna connect with a curve. And then I'm gonna connect with another curve. Now my fish has funny looking lips. All right, and then I'm gonna put a little detail line here. There we go. That looks good. All right, the next step. We've got our eye, we've got our body, we've got our mouth. Now we need to draw the tail, and the tail is going to take up this space over here. So I want my tail to go here to the top left, right corner of my paper, and then I want the bottom of my tail to go to the bottom right corner of my paper. Now there's lots of different ways you can make tails. You can make tails as triangles, you can use curved lines. You get to pick how you want your tail to be. This one, in my crayon drawing, my tail kind of looks like a fan. So I did diagonal lines going up and out towards that top corner, and I did a diagonal line going towards the bottom corner, and then I connected it with a curved line, like a rainbow, sideways rainbow line. So that looks like a fan. But you can make your tail any way you want. I'm gonna try making a curvy, flowy tail. All right, so I know I wanna go up here to here. So I'm gonna start where I left off with my body, and I'm gonna draw a curved line towards my finger. And then I'm going to come back to the middle. So here's the middle of my fish body. Okay, so I wanna come right to the middle there. If I want, I can put my finger there so I don't lose my place. And then I'm going to continue with a curved line, stop at my finger. That's a nice curvy shape, almost like a leaf. It's just not closed, not a closed shape yet. All right, so now I need to do the bottom part of my tail, and I know I want it to go to this corner. All right, so I'm gonna continue where I left off, and I'm gonna draw a curved line all the way till I get to my finger, and I'll stop. And then I need to connect this line to that line. All right, so I'm gonna come back, and I'm gonna hold my paper down, and then I'm gonna draw a curved line all the way till I get back to that corner. I have a closed shape. I have a fish tail, a fish body, and a fish mouth with a fish eye. All right, boys and girls, it's now time to add our fins. There are lots of ways that you can add fins. Maybe you'd like to add a fin that just looks like a rainbow shape. So I'm just gonna come up here and draw a rainbow. And it's kind of wobbly, that's okay. Or maybe you want your fins to look like flames or feathery hair. So let's try that. I'm gonna go up, 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 curve, and then I'm gonna come back and curve and back and curve, and then I'm gonna come back to my body. It almost looks like fiery flames on that fin. Okay, some other fins that you might want to draw. How about some like diagonal fins that have like a triangle type of shape. So I'm gonna come down here at the bottom, and I'm gonna do a triangle. Maybe you want some zigzaggy fins instead. So I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna do some zigzag lines and come back to my body. So you can create whatever kinds of fins you like. All right, now we're gonna come inside our fish, and I'm gonna add a gill. There we go. It's like a sideways U or sideways smile. Maybe you wanna add another fin here at this point. So I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna go curve, a bigger curve, and a smaller curve back to where I began. So now I have a different kind of fin inside my fish. Now what happens if you make a line that you don't like? What if you went something like that? Well, it's okay. Just go ahead and turn it into part of your picture. It'll be all right. So now the fun part is to go ahead and add those lines to create some patterns, some details in your fish to make your fish look unique. So I'm gonna do some vertical stripes in this fin up here. So make sure you start at your line and stop at your line. And then maybe I want some wavy lines here. So maybe I'll just go there we are. How about, ooh, some curved lines in the tail? That might be interesting. And then I'm going to do the same over here. Maybe you want some scallops or bumps on the outside of the tail. There we go. Maybe you want some scales in here. Remember we had that kind of line that I was just kind of like, nah, not the best line. So let's go ahead and add some details to make it look scaly. That looks good. All right. Now we need to add some details in our background. So I'm gonna pick a different color now. I'm gonna go to my greens. Now start at the bottom of your paper and go ahead and start at the bottom and just do a curvy line until you get to the mouth. So I'm gonna stop at my mouth line. And then I'm gonna go ahead and come right back. Follow it right back. And now this time, I'm gonna go ahead and color this in. So when you're coloring with your crayons or you're coloring with oil pastels, color in little small sections. Do one section at a time. You can start at the top and work your way down, or I started at the bottom and worked my way up. No wrong way to do that. All right, that looks good. So I've got some seaweed or leafy grasses. Now this one's in front of my fish, but I want to draw one behind my fish. So I'm going to start at the bottom on my paper. I'm going to do a different color green so you can see it. Start at the bottom of my paper. I'm going to draw and stop at my leaf line. I want to jump over it. Continue, stop at my fish. Jump over my fish, because remember this leafy grass is behind my fish. And then I'm gonna curve. Now I wanna come back. So I'm gonna draw coming back, stopping at my fish's head, jump over. It's a short line, start and stop, jump over my grass, and then come back to the bottom of my paper. And now I can go ahead and color that in. All right, there we go. All right, I'm now going to pick up my white oil pastel because I want to add some bubbles, and I'm going to use white so that it shows up when I paint. So I'm just going to make my circle and fill it in, and make a circle and fill it in. I know it's hard to see right now, but believe me, it will come out when we paint our watercolor wash over it. If you're doing this with crayon, you can go ahead and do the same thing with your crayon. And then I'm gonna add some white polka dots in my fish body. So I'm just gonna draw my circle, color it in, and draw my part of my circle. Color it in. Let's put one here. And let's put one here. Let's see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's add a 5th one over here. Looks like a good spot for it. All right. I'm gonna go back in. I think I'm gonna add some stripes down here. And let's add let's go with, I'm gonna do some curved scallop lines in here. It might look interesting. All right. Let's see, let's add some yellow. And I'm gonna do just some little short U's. Give it a little bit of texture, some pattern. It's a little different. There, that looks good. All right, I'm gonna take some orange. Maybe I'm gonna color a pattern here. Let's go orange, yellow, orange. It's gonna be yellow, this one's gonna be orange. All right, and then let's do orange, yellow. It's okay if your colors blend. It's all right. I'm really liking this. Let's keep it going. I'll add some orange. Do that one yellow, let's do this one orange. That one yellow. This one orange. And yellow, orange. That one will be yellow, this one's going to be orange. All right, this one will be yellow, this one will be orange. Yellow and orange. All right. And I'm gonna get my red back out. I think I'm gonna do my eye, and then I need to close this shape here. So if I follow this line here, follow that back. There we go. And then I can come in, color this yellow, this one yellow, let's do this one yellow. There we go. All right, let's add a little baby fish. So I've got some space down here at the bottom, so I'm just gonna draw a curved line and then another curved line, a V, and then a diagonal up, diagonal down, and then a vertical line up and down. And there is my baby fish. Okay, and what else do I need? Let's do an orange. Next to my red line. And then I'm going to color in the rest of this with my yellow. There we go. And let's see. I think that looks good. I think I'm ready for paint. All right, I'm gonna put these back. And now I'm gonna start with the paint color for my fish. So I'm gonna do, since I drew with red, I am going to go ahead and paint with a red also. Let's try, I'm gonna go with a red here. And I'm gonna use a big brush. I'm gonna swirl my brush in my paint. And then I'm gonna paint right over everything. And look, my white polka dots are showing up. My yellow lines are showing up. And my white scales are showing up inside that fin. Fantastic. All right, and then I'm gonna come over and I'm gonna paint right inside my tail shapes. And I can even paint right over my tail, and wherever I don't have color, the paint will stick. And I can even paint right over here. And wherever I don't have color, the paint is gonna stick right to it. No worries. I'm gonna come down and I'm gonna paint my little baby fish. Just using the tip, pressing very, very lightly so I stay inside my lines. There. All right, and it's time for me to rinse out my brush. I'm gonna rinse Rinse out my brush and I'm ready for my background, my blue water. All right, I'm gonna use my big brush, swirl in my paint. I'm gonna be real careful so that I don't go into my fish shapes. So I'm gonna be real careful, paint with just the tip. Trace around your edge, and then you can go a little quicker. Notice how my fish is really starting to pop up against this blue background. Gives your fish contrast, makes your fish stand out. Gonna paint right over my bubbles. Just like magic, they appear. Now remember, you can add color. If you don't have paint, that's okay. You can add color with your crayons, like I did in my red, violet, and pink fish. Or you can use your markers and do it like I did my red, orange, and yellow fish that I made with markers. And I'm almost done with my background. There. Ta-da! And my fish is done. It's a great masterpiece, and I know you're gonna have a wonderful masterpiece too. Enjoy, happy creating, and until next week, I will see you then. Bye.